having been I had to layover in Turkey, in Istanbul, عارف? Sorry, we have to try to do this mostly in English. But just a disclaimer for everyone watching that we might slip into some Arabic once in a while, but because I was having a guest on who cancelled while I was in a meeting with Nairuz, who is a dear friend of mine who I manage, and we thought, fuck it, let's do a mic check episode because I want to start doing more of these, having other guests on, like not as interviews, but more to do this show and shoot the shit and replace Oliver sometimes. Yeah, that's. I was in a layover in Istanbul.
She also mentioned the fact that I want you to start a whole season that you'd introduce or actually have interview people and speak in Arabic solely. Entire season that is meant for Arabic. Well, that is spoken in Arabic.
Yeah. Well, you were saying
in Dutch and
you use all my languages and show off as a polyglot that I am.
Exactly. Polyglots.
Yeah. The polyglot's a funny word. Polyglot's a cool word.
I actually want. I mean, I've always aspired to become a polyglot. At one point, I think I want to be. Maybe that's one of the ultimate goals in life is to pick up every language there is.
Oh man. Yeah, what do you think? If you can pick up every language there is in the world, like how it's inevitable that you're going to be successful.
It's a superpower.
When you think of success,
I agree. It's a superpower.
Yeah, it is. It's doing business in countries where people don't speak English is just and collaborating, creating those collaborations, not as an artist necessarily, also in business between. Like you have a vast amount of business owners around the world that don't speak English but are super successful in their own domain in their countries. If you can link them to other countries that have like other entrepreneurs who also don't speak English, they don't have that universal language between them. That's crazy.
Yeah, imagine the amount of outreach that this will help you get. I mean, let alone the idea of using standardized English just to get to a broader audience. Think about the many cultures there are in the world and the many languages and accents and dialects that come with them. I mean, it's phenomenal. But then again, I think it's easier. I think it's hard to imagine someone really circumnavigating the entirety of humanity's languages. But in a sense, if you were to narrow down the origins of languages, I think it would narrow down to like 6 specific bases, if you may, or 6 specific origins.
Yeah.
In a sense where you've got the Latin roots with the Romantic languages, and you've got Celtic/Germanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got the what did they call it? Indo-Asian.
Indonesian. Indonesian. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder where it comes from. Because in Asia it's so vast. I think you have every alphabets aren't even close to each other. But then you have a country like Georgia. I don't know if you've ever seen their alphabet. It's like because
it's Cyrillic, isn't it?
Is it called Cyrillic? No, Cyrillic is what they have in Russia, right?
So,
what is that called?
I think I'm not sure, man. I think it's
but they have scribbles. It looks like a mix between like Malaysian and then I don't know what else. It looks like diddles, the doodles that you would draw as a child in class in the back of the room,
You know what's? It reminds me of one beautiful language. I've heard this language spoken to me by someone who speaks it. Actually, an Irish woman. I was in Barcelona doing a theater workshop there, and there was a bunch of Irish people taking that very same workshop. And I would get introduced for the very first time in my life to Gaelic. You've heard of that language, Gaelic?
The original Irish.
The
Yeah,
original Irish language, exactly,
yeah,
and it's becoming almost extinct as a
yeah.
language, which is very sad because it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. It's like you're thinking
Lord of the
elfish
Rings.
from
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, right?
Sorry,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
beautiful sounding language, and also the writings, the typography is very much, I would say, cursive or doodle like.
Do you think there's enough people that speak those extinct languages that are going extinct, those subcultures, to make a movie in that language and then have it subtitled? Because you don't
I
just need
think
like it's not just that you speak the language, but also you need to be competent actor. you know. But I love it when
really,
it's done in music.
the thing is, I think there are many. I think there are upcoming organizations that are meant for the preservation for such languages. Um, and because you're thinking most most likely this would be done with ethnic groups that are minority groups. I'm thinking, I would see such people or people from such organizations that would appear mostly from Instagram searches and some publicized works of these organizations in a sense. TikTok is also offering a huge expanse in terms of
Hmm.
delivering, uh, um, you know, such knowledge and information about.
Let's see.
Well, I feel the sole purpose for that is for a certain culture not to go extinct, and it's very important to really
Yeah.
keep. And you think because I think it was my idea. The example for me would be the Navajo language, which is
Oh,
the
yeah.
yeah,
The
the
Native
language that is
Americans.
used by Native Americans, and also particular language that I was fascinated by when I first heard it. It sounds so close, if you may. I mean, it's easy on the ear. It's nothing that I had expected, to be honest. Because to be honest, it's like the the Spanish influence right after the conquistas.
Mm.
Um, it felt like maybe if I were to hear Native American be speaking, which is Navajo, I think it would have more likely be influenced by some Spanish words, Spanish language. But
Mm.
it wasn't the case. It was very original in a sense. It's the purified version of it is a very composed language with its intrinsic values, of course, and I'm
I feel like
thinking
it's kind of
I'm not the
sonically
expert on it.
pleasing.
It was. It
If
is.
a language is sonically pleasing, it has to be used in music. like obviously, but like some languages are sonically pleasing just spoken. That's why they make for good art. Maybe you
But
should
that
do
raises
that.
a big question.
Mm.
It raises a big question, Nick. For me, it feels like in Arabic, because we have such diversity in terms of dialects and accents. And when it comes to music, I think we've spoken to you about this a couple of times, and many times that this as a subject would be brought up. The fact that the Jordanian accent or the Jordanian dialect in music is widely accepted. I would say is actually more or less being asked for by lots of audience members, and you're thinking, as opposed to the when you think about Arabic music, you're thinking most popularly it would be what? It would be Lebanese dialect, it would be Egyptian dialect,
I see Egyptian. Like
mainly because
Arabs
of
would say
the
Egyptian, and
rise
then
of the.
foreigners would say Lebanese. I think because the Lebanese was a lot very commercialized. Although Amr Diab is like huge in Europe, so he's Egyptian. But yeah, those two.
The idea is that there was massive. There's still massive propaganda being. I mean, there's still a lot of artists who who have risen and who have come from the Middle East. I mean, most of these would be of Egyptian descent or of Lebanese descent. And you're thinking this can be taken back, you know, way back from the very beginning. I guess around the 40s and 50s. And then later on in the 60s and 70s is when Omar Sharif, as an actor, would appear in foreign movies. In this case,
Hmm.
in
Lawrence of
Western
Arabia.
movies. Lawrence of Arabia. Well, who was it? Lawrence of Arabia was Anthony Quinn.
Was he in the Lawrence of Arabia?
He was Lawrence. Yeah, he played
Was
Lawrence. Anthony Quinn. He's a British actor.
we have the interwebs. I can use.
There's some Spanish movies, Italian movies that Omar Sharif has been in. But then again, I think in this case it will be an example of how Omar Sharif is some sort of a polyglot in a sense. But I think the main question was whether or not a language can be interpreted in a musical sense and which dialect would have its most appeal. To me, I think I've always considered Egyptian as a dialect or an accent was the most musical, considerably because many of the words and the sentences and the meaning of context would just essentially work. You know, you can almost make up any sentence in Egyptian and actually have it work within context,
yeah.
as opposed to Jordanian, which I personally feel is more. I don't want to say guttural. I want to say heavier on the ear. But that's not the case when you know I've spoken to many Egyptian friends and acquaintances, and they would almost argue that the Jordanian accent sounds easier than that of the Egyptian accent, which is a total
Yeah.
like.
So yeah, it's fun. It's also regionally in Jordan, different, very different. Which accent you're using? Karaki, if you're from Karak, is like diffish أكتر. It's more heavy. Uh, ال السلطي. بعدين there's also when I was in college. I remember when I was linking up and starting to become closer with my friend who grew up in Sudan. He was speaking Sudani. That he wouldn't understand my Arabic much, my Jordanian. So I was like, oh, theirs looks like sounds like Egyptian. So I'm gonna switch to Egyptian, and I speak, the semi well Egyptian because of the movies and music we're exposed to, from a young age, and it worked. And then we went and had lunch with a friend who is, I think, Ethiopian French was one of them. But he was
Okay.
like listening to us, and we're like ranting, and we're just messing with each other in Arabic. And he's like, everyone was asking like, "What language are you speaking?" And then we said Arabic. They were surprised, like, "Whoa," because we would recognize Arabic, in the streets and stuff, but it doesn't recognize ours as Arabic because maybe it sounded less. He said that sounded less harsh because I was doing a mix of Jordanian and Egyptian, and he was speaking Sudani. So, yeah.
Well, I can almost imagine the dialect, the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we're always just messing around with each other, you know. Yeah. So even when we were trying to be aggressive because we were aggressively threatening each other, they were like, still doesn't sound like the Arabic that we think we know. Yeah.
Thing is, with that, whenever you ask a foreigner, how does a foreigner, meaning a foreigner to me, which would be a Western person, right? A person coming in from a Western country. Um, the question would be, how does Arabic sound to you at first glance or at first listen in this case? And because usually what the expectation for me would be, it sounds like you two are fighting. It sounds like it's aggressive.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that before from people, right? And I mean, of course, this is the general consensus. This is the general stereotype that Arabic sounds aggressive or, uh, yeah, it just sounds like in terms of having a conversation, it's as improper as it may get. But then again, I think of the style of delivery, like how people would assume a conversation should sound like, right? Because I mean, it's the same thing for me. It feels I could say the same thing about Deutsch, about German being spoken, right? I mean,
Oh,
I know bits and pieces, right? I very, very little. My German really is shit. But then again, whenever I hear it being spoken, it sounds the same. It sounds like yeah, this is an uncivilized conversation.
Nowhere.
Yeah. Then again, it's because of
The-
my idiocracy. It's because of my lack of knowledge and lack of
Nah, it's
understanding.
yeah, universally agreed upon that German is aggressive. I mean, it says enough that they're what they call a butterfly, which is supposed to be something gentle and beautiful, is a Schmetterling, which is like someone who was like a prisoner of war. You know, like, that's what it sounds like.
General Schmetterling.
Schmetterling, and like what else? There was like I'm gonna look this up while you talk. I was like German words compared. I'm sure I'll find like a list of all these things that I found where they show the word in all the other
Ah,
languages and then how you say it in German. Yeah,
yeah,
how German sounds in comparison
I
to other
want you.
languages.
I want you to look this up really because I asked some German friends and German people I was working with about. There was this thing I had seen. Usually, it's just like a couple of clips from different places in the world where you'd see a clip for a clip with someone in Korea, right? And then a little cat would pass by, and then they would go like, or
Yeah.
someone in Amman or something, right? And they would go
And
like,
Germans would go.
and there's a German word for that, which apparently they don't use, but then again, it's been widely accepted as the thing for calling a cat. Please look it up. I don't. It's a
Cat? Oh yeah,
really
calling
good
a cat.
word.
How
Calling a
Germans.
cat, cat calling in
Cat.
German or in Deutsch.
Cat calling is
It's
something else again. Well, it's the same. It's the so wait, hold on. Is that what they say to women as well then when they're catcalling women and that's
I
why like
wonder.
and then I wonder and I have to compare like, you know, yeah, I know. Man, let me see.
Well, PC
Here,
culture
help.
in Thailand not to do that anymore, I guess. Unless you're Italian or Mediterranean, then you
It
can
still happens.
pass. But then
100% it still happens. Listen, to all the German artists out there, we've just closed collaborations with you. Peace.
I owe you all the love and respect to my German friends. I mean, having worked with them, terrific,
Yeah, you have a
fantastic
lot of
people.
relationships in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually never had anticipated that, but it happened, and I am now more than happy to have done a couple of musical projects with some phenomenal people.
Of course, we're joking
But
around
the
here,
thing is,
but
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I had never really anticipated it is because um, th-
you mean
it's
working
because
with the Germans?
yeah, and specifically with music, is because the only thing I had thought of in terms of music being made, German music, if you may, is this very experimental and like glitchy slash like
Yeah.
super fast and super techno-y
Yeah.
sound, which I don't personally enjoy,
It's
right?
also where
Because
like
I mean that's the thing.
techno is and electronic music just in general is conceived and it's still in its infancy phases and stages because everyone starts over there and there is enough venues to incorporate everyone. And then once they refine their style, they start moving it to other places, taking it on tour, essentially, I think. I might be wrong, but so, yeah.
I thought that was the general thing that was happening. That was their main goal is to really just go for that type of music. But I was considerably wrong because yeah, not only do you get some huge diversity in terms of the music that they make and the music that they enjoy and listen to, but also and as any other culture, they also have their very input in terms of. I mean, you're thinking Germany
Well,
had created huge advance in terms of music ever since Bach was composing from sacred music for music for the mass, so
Sure.
music for the church,
Yeah.
up until late Romanticists. 18th century Romanticists, and then Germany had its very peak. And ever since, I would like to believe that they would like to split in terms of creating music. They would like to become the hipsters, although
Oh, bro. Yeah.
Amsterdam, the hipster town of Europe at the time, in terms of Renaissance and onwards.
Yeah, and the
But
new
maybe
Berlin is like what do you call it? The alternative
that's
community.
what it is. So Berlin has its own kind of sound, and then the entirety of Germany has all the other diversity that is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
But then again, I do know I haven't visited Berlin. I would love to, but that's all I would hear about Berlin is that it's
It is a very
it's
predominantly available market. Like when we were looking at your tour dates, like the time we were doing the European tour bookings, like there's so much that wouldn't take you because they were only looking for DJs, you know? This is so much, like so many venues that even venues you wouldn't think
yeah, I
would
remember.
incorporate that music by their aesthetic look. That's a double, by the way, aesthetic and look is the same. But okay. Um, but they would still be the ones that take electronic artists, not electronic artists, because I consider like somewhat an electronic artist as well. But you know what I mean, like DJs and techno
Yes, yes.
DJs and stuff. Like they would take those, even venues where it would be like an old theater where you think it smells like oatmeal and old wood. It's still gonna be like DJs and modern techno. Yeah. So it's interesting. Just the like that west side of Western Europe, and up until I would say Central Europe, where you reach Prague, because that's a very big musical hub. It's all predominantly electronic music that has progressed in different phases and is in different phases of it, and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
it's
definitely.
like each country, each time you go more towards the east, yeah, east, that's then the sound changes slightly.
Uh, I feel like there's if yeah, going east, I feel at one point it's you're working with a linear formation, a linear ascension or descension. But then again, I think there's this swoosh, a big drop in terms of how things are starting to sound like. Because I think when you get to places like Eastern Europe, like I would say Serbia and what was it? Because I met a couple of artists on the way to you because I was picking up a couple of trains from on my way to visiting you in Amsterdam. I would meet this guy who was a musician, and he would actually come and introduce himself because I was holding a lot of equipment, and he offered to help me out. And with that, we started talking, and we got to know each other, exchanged some contacts. This guy is from Serbia, and he told me that he was in a band, and they would play punk jazz with
Yeah,
some elements, with
yeah.
some Serbian elements.
That
Yeah,
made me still think of Poland for some reason. Polish have a lot of,
Poland for
and the Polish and their punk rock is still a huge thing. And
apparently guys would not even rehearse, so they would actually have their shows booked, and they would go there separately as separate entities, and they would just rejoice on stage. And again, that's one big factor that helps them. I think it's the jazz factor. It's all improv. But then again, jazz, you're thinking jazz and punk. I mean, if I were to be in a punk band, I at least need to know, some sort of progression for the song. I need to know which key we're playing in, right?
just a lot of sevens notes distorted and heavily like power chorded. That's what you
Yeah,
that's
power chords. That's
power
what it is.
chording, jazz music, sevens notes, sevens chords. That's what it sounds like to me. But
So
also,
essentially,
it also does sound
it's
like
very
wide as
easy.
hell, to be honest.
It's wild. It's wild. It's how do you say this? It's untamed, which
I
is
mean,
in their case is the aesthetic. I mean, it serves their purpose. It serves that purpose, right?
yeah,
Create that genre. It works. But it's
yeah.
interesting moving further to the east, towards the east, how music would actually sound change in terms of how it sounds, and in terms of structure and form. I think it's phenomenal. I think music is really the universal language for us all, and it's just great, man.
That's why
It's
we're moving to a
it doesn't
like
end.
I think. Sorry.
I was saying it's endless. It does not end
Yeah, it
at
is
any
endless
point.
because now, as you were saying, there's so many ideas. Like even just us talking now, there's a lot of ideas that are popping in my head. Like I was thinking, even in the beginning, as wild as it sounds, like, man, Nairuz should make an album where you have collabs with artists with all these different indigenous languages, stuff like
Oh,
that. That'd be something
that's
interesting.
great. Yeah.
If we're actually gonna end up doing this, I'm gonna cut this out. Like this is confidential. No, but I'm thinking we're moving into like a collaboration culture now with music, right? Like I feel especially and it was even pre-COVID, like because of the internet probably opening so many doors, and you discover artists you would have never met anyway back in the day, if it was before the internet.
Yeah.
Um, that people are becoming also a lot less selfish about their work and realizing there's so much I don't know and I can learn. So and overlapping fan bases, you know, through featuring people on your album. And I mean, how I'm asking these questions even though I know how do you choose your collaborations these days? Because I thought it would be
By the
nice
way,
actually to reflect on like how we started working together and things were working on thought processes that go on in your heads when we talk about your work. And yeah,
I think it's a thematic approach towards having someone collaborate with you on something. Because then again, with the internet being our huge our number one catalyst in this case, I think there are many ways you can collaborate with people. So it doesn't necessarily need to revolve around musical collaboration as opposed to really collaborating within the visual art and
yeah,
visual content.
spreading the
You're
workload.
thinking dance. I'm thinking lyricists who would write in different composers, also mixing engineers. So many. I would assume all fields of all disciplines within the arts world. It's now the internet has become um, a melting pot for all these disciplines, and
Yeah.
for every artist to actually be able to collaborate in a digital sense. Again, a bigger question for me would be, whether or not. So right now we have the accessible and readily the readiness of sharing stuff over the internet. But then again, if we were to take it back, uh, would we be able to access and be able to collaborate without the use of internet and without the use of any
Oh,
external?
bro, like this takes me back to this interview I did with at ADE with Nick Warren, who was solo but used to be the DJ of Massive Attack. And he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
like, I asked him because he grew up I think in the early '80s when electronic music was just an underground thing, and they would get so much work. He said there's like this small community of DJs that would get so much work just because they were the people with the record collection. That's what he said. That's how it started. They had the record collection because it was all physical,
Yeah,
and they were so
yeah.
obsessive. They'd go, here, like find even vinyl records that there's maybe 3 copies of ever, and mix that in with something else. And they were like, yeah, that's convenient. It's convenient to have the guys that have all the music and just play whatever you want at our show. So
You can watch many of these, but I think, this is how genuine these DJs have really DJs and producers, in a sense, would be. Um, yeah, how genuinely influenced and invested these producers have been in the past, I would say 20 years, 30 years, maybe even more, I'm sure, because it's, it spans across the past few decades. And I was having this conversation about one particular DJ, Carl Cox,
Yeah.
and a friend of mine would tell me about a documentary or some sort of setup that he has seen, a live set, and then he would not talk about the music, but rather he would talk about the venue or the place that Carl Cox was playing at, and I think it was at his home, um, and it was at this library, huge monumental place
Mm.
filled with at least 2 million. It was like with like how do you say, shelves, right,
Bookshelf.
fully
Yeah.
stacked with vinyl records and phonographic records, and it's just like how. First of all, how do you get the money to collect
Yeah.
such large group of works? And then again, do you really use all of these? Do you really sample all of these records? Have you listened to every single record there is?
Of
And
course not. Of
probably
course not. I mean, they know people are. Yeah, a lot of times you just pick up a bunch of stuff though as well, and maybe one day you'll get to it, but half the time you probably don't. I mean, you have a big record collection that you probably haven't heard a lot of them, and it's not even that huge to that extent, like. But
I haven't
you
heard.
never know. You might hear one day, like, this is interesting. Let me put it in, and then you create some music around it. Wait, how do you usually go about doing that?
Hmm.
If you want to get inspired by an old piece of music, like a vinyl record you found, or because to explain, like Nairuz has, and correct me if I'm wrong, inherited a lot of records, right? And a lot
Yes,
of them
I
are
have.
from very region specific in Europe, and around the world actually, but very region specific, very local artists, like the underground artists or what do you call them? Starting artists you have nowadays, but from
So
back
I
in the day.
inherited the.
Mm. It's like
Yeah, I
SoundCloud
mean,
artists
listen, that
from
collection that I have.
decades ago, yeah, essentially.
Well,
Indie artists
I
from
wouldn't say
decades ago.
so. I don't know, man. Thing is,
No, SoundCloud artists have a very big stigma on them.
I
Yeah,
can't go about saying it because you don't want you don't want that term Spotify SoundCloud artist to be in any sense used in a pejorative sense, right? As a
yeah.
pejorative term. But then again, listen, yeah, I did inherit this collection of records from my father. My father used to study. He studied in Spain, and he used to live in the UK and Spain. And yeah, many of the artists would be like you're thinking Julio Iglesias, you're thinking Rocío Docal, you're thinking bands like what's his name? Cream, Eric Clapton's Cream.
Mm,
We know that one track.
yeah, yeah,
I'm with you, my love.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that track. Sunshine of Your Love.
Mm-hmm.
So when the pandemic first broke out, and this was last year, March last year, I saw it after sampling some of these vinyl records, and I was very happy to actually have received. I had ordered from Amazon these adapters, like little circular plastic bits that you'd apply to, because I have the smaller vinyls, the ones that go on 45 RPM, that's what they call it. So they had a bigger hole.
Mm-hmm.
So I had extensions, adapters, and it was great practice for me to like. Well, first of all, to actually get to listen to this beautiful quality of, you're thinking back then, the idea of music making was much more authentic. I feel it was at least more skillful
What's man?
than
It's mechanical. feels like you
Yeah,
are doing with your hands more.
that's true.
It's
And then
like
again,
I see it sort of just as a if the difference between driving a automatic or like a mechanical car or like a Porsche or like a Ferrari with the engine and everything rather than a Tesla or a hybrid like a Prius or something. Where it's
an
a cool
Alfa
car
Romeo
but like you don't
classic.
feel that power. You don't not doing as much with your with your hands, you know.
And it left less room for error for any
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, you'd have to be at the studio and record everything like on spot, you know. And if you were to make a mistake, then it's costly, man. You've already wasted some tape, some actual physical tape,
I'm with you
and
still.
you don't want to do that. As opposed to now, where you have the we have some good softwares that we can use. You know, digitally we can edit and amend and move things back and forth. We can, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you can go about creating anything you want. Of course, with the addition of having such samples from back in, you know, returning and go back to older tracks and older music bits that were created in different formats. Now we can play and edit and use them. Actually, I've always wondered about this public domain kind of thing. It's like
Mm.
so whether or not a certain type of music had because what is it? Is it I think right now it will be music from the 60s. I think it's like if a piece of music was created before 1964 or 1962, it's now
Yeah.
in the
Free
public
use.
domain. Oh,
Which is
well,
awesome. I'm gonna
congrats.
start doing my intros with that music, man. Because garage rock is one of my favorite genres there is. And then you're talking about like the Chuck Berrys of the world as well. And
Anyway,
you know, I used to host, not host. I used to have a host on the platform of what's it called? The Brimmers. It was the drummer of the Brimmers and stuff like that. Music you guys gotta look up. That would be,
I actually
yeah.
don't know this group. The Brim, what was it?
Hold on. The Brimmers
The Brimmers.
with a Y. The Brimmers.
Mm.
Yeah, my
Like Skitter.
It's very like surf rockish, you know, but like gritty. It's like the punk rock movement, but of the late 50s, early 60s, all the way up until the late 50s, I think. No, the late 60s, and it's what you would hear in aesthetically. Like if you would have to put a movie on it, maybe Fast Times at Ridgemont High would be more of a that type of people, you know. If I had to put like a visual on it, yeah, that guy was
That's fascinating.
yeah.
Actually, like this past week, I was doing this exercise with my students where I would, because we're talking about music for entertainment, music for movement, and music for
Mm.
dramatic impacts, or again, also music for film. And one of the exercises was for them to pick out a scene from a movie, and especially a scene with some background music and some music that has a scene that has music in it. And then the exercise was for them to actually pick a different track and place it over the original
Oh yeah, yeah,
scene.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
And
love
then
it,
have this kind of compare and contrast.
bro.
Uh, and you'd be fascinated with like how we have such a huge
Well,
library now as a humanity to pick
yeah.
any sound and make it work
Well, you can
within
show
within context.
someone like a neutral scene, an ambiguous scene from any movie they haven't watched, and then you can find out how they perceive that scene, how what feeling do they get with it. And this is very interesting because I did a research project once and during my bachelor's, which was on
Precisely.
the feeling, yeah, how music changes your perception of a scene. So we picked out this video. This was really cool actually, because I wish I could find the music again, as I composed like most of it. I composed specifically. I was really proud of the horror track that I made. So we had the scene of a woman walking down the woods, and it wasn't even too dark of woods, and she loses her scarf and she's chasing after it. And that scene, we had different sample groups of people. One with like a more comedic track, one is like dramatic, one is romantic, and one is horror. And we had like this questionnaire where like, what did you feel here? Blah blah blah. Like you try to capture their emotions. And then for a horror, at some point there was like this climax of the song, it's building up, and then the shot just changes to a shot of the sky with the trees, and you see the trees, you know. And as soon as that happened, that's when the drop was of the song, and you heard one of the girls in the in the sample group yell like "ah!" And there was nothing. And there's such a vast different response of like what music does to an ambiguous scene.
Yeah.
How many scenes, iconic scenes in movies, would have been absolute fucking garbage with the wrong music?
Pick out an entire soundtrack for a movie that's yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because I feel a lot for people who actually need to have this decision, to make the decision for what kind of soundtrack does this film have, whether it's an originally written soundtrack for it or not. Maybe in a sense, an original score would be easier than that of choosing specific songs for them, unless there's one lyrical hint, in a song that would, be very how do you say, would function very well within the scene. And I think Quentin Tarantino is one of those writers and filmmakers who would actually pick out the best soundtracks and the best songs for each scenes.
Yeah.
But I think it's a hard process to curate a soundtrack for
most definitely
for each scene in films. I mean, depending on the film, of course, and depending on what's happening. But I mean, if it was me, I feel like it would take me ages. I would finish the movie in no time, but it really would take me ages to figure out which song would fit better.
Yeah, the amount of times that I'm sitting in the train and the song comes up and I was like thinking this would be perfect for this thing we shot is crazy. But then you can't use it. And I wish I had the budget to, hire someone to curate it. I was just having this conversation maybe even yesterday or 2 days ago. When did I call Nestor? Nestor is a brilliant like film score composer that I know. He was like every time we talk about a project, he's like, yeah, that was decent, like, but the music, the song, the score sucks. Yeah. So he starts looking at different things depending on his work, and we realize how few projects nowadays, especially when you look at streaming platforms like Netflix, put any attention into doing an original score. Because there's like, I go on the soundtrack of these things when I find a song that I liked and I want to find out what it's called. I go to the Spotify to the soundtrack of this movie or series, and then maybe like only a few 3-4 tracks are like original film score of this show, whatever it is, and like that's way too little. That used to be like a whole movie or a series would be almost fully scored, and now it's just we couldn't find the exact music for this one scene, so let's score that one.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a more. Yeah, I think you've got a more eclectic approach towards curating sounds now, as opposed to the commercial merchant, right? Someone who is producing something solely for the purpose of
the musical car salesman. Yeah.
Musical car salesman.
The musical car salesman. That's the kind of agent that wears that suit all day.
That go like that, right?
Yeah. When I see that, I like feel heavy metal is playing. Imagine heavy metal playing while you see that thing.
Wow. It's sad. It's like the ghost in the machine.
Yeah. Nobody shows respect to those people.
Do you believe in that? Do you believe in the ghost?
In ghosts? Hmm. I'm in and out with it. I'm on the fence
No,
with it.
not
I haven't met too many of them.
that's not the question.
What?
I'm not asking you if you believe in ghosts. I was wondering if you believe in the ghost inside the machine,
Hmm.
in a sense where electronics and robots and into artificial intelligence would have sort of entity, not an entity, a soul of some sort,
Does machines have a soul?
uh, an understanding, some sort of
No.
yeah. It's like
Do you?
I'll tell you. I mean,
Machines
it's an
have that.
interesting topic for me because I mean I entertain the idea. I like to think that there is one, and then yeah, at times it just very specific at very specific times that it likes to fuck with me, but generally I don't. But it's just like sometimes I'm creating it would be countless hours of me sitting on a computer and just hearing something over and over again, or adding more layers and textures in terms of sound, and I would assume that everything is working fine in terms of the processors until this very moment where the computer crashes, right? And then it says it's just like a
Oh, like that.
huge green screen where it's just like, ah,
Yeah, I'm too
you've
aware
got
that.
error,
Fuck yeah.
it's reset everything, and your heart freezes. You're wondering whether or not the entirety of your project is gone and drafted. Um, so yeah, that's precisely when I start to believe that there's this ghost in the machine trying to say something to me.
I mean,
Give me a break.
science from
For
the
fuck's
universe.
sake.
Yeah. No. I feel you, but I think you're just tired. At that point, you start thinking these things. You're just tired.
I
I don't
was
think
I was not sure. I was
technically. I mean, look at it. If you look at it in a way that machines are actually modeled after real life things, right? And living things and humans and like robots somewhat have human elements in the sense that they have the brain, the bloodstream, the nervous
it's
system,
silicon
all
based,
that.
surely.
Like when I think of a surgeon, I think of a mechanic, but a mechanic for the flesh, right? So in that sense, I guess it does have this. Although the soul is the one thing that does the soul come from the
Wow.
nervous system?
Does
You
that
think?
mean
Because here's my theory. Then, if we're really going into your like assumption of some mechanical things and apparatus having soul or you know having a life, what a machine or a computer or something turns on when you put power in it. It's that electrical current. What does that for humans? It's the nervous system. Is our electrical current, or our brain is the thing that really keeps us alive, I guess, and awake and aware. Is the soul in the nervous system or in the brain?
yeah, I mean, I think I was thinking more towards consciousness and whether or not you know a
But
robot
that's in
might
the
be.
nervous system. That's in the brain.
Is it consciousness? Is it in the brain? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, part of the.
I
Is it in the
think it's more
nervous system?
metaphysical at this point. It's got to do with metaphysics. No one has ever really described what a soul really means. It's just this introspective idea of us having a remote understanding to our. Hmm.
Then the soul is
I
also.
think
I feel like a soul. Part of the soul is like just a collective of experiences, a collection of experiences we've had, and like if I would replace mine with the part of the brain that has memories and experiences in it, you manage to transfer that to someone else. I think they would be me. Just that part of the brain. Like if you take that, they're me now. We are just like a bundle of experiences that we've been through and memories. Right? That's yeah. That might be the
Yeah, I
deepest thing I've
agree.
ever said. Deepest conclusion I've ever drawn in life. You know. Yeah. I haven't even gotten into the good
Wow.
shit yet, man. This is just a beer.
I
But
agree.
speaking
I
of
think
which, let's get this party started over here.
yeah, I am advocating sobriety. I'm having a glass of water right now. Very dull and boring, but it's good for your body. Good for the soul too, right?
Mm. Well, I did that all week. I think. That's no,
Good.
but
طب
yeah.
احنا ما حكينا ولا كلمة عربي لهلا يعني just so you know.
اه بدك تحول العربي بصير نحول عربي. يلا يلا. عشان
كملنا
تعرف
هلا.
ليش؟ عشان بدي اصير اترجم كل شيء واحط سب تايتلز وهيك بس يا طب
عشان تعمل
هم؟
تعمل هيك امباير للبوث.
بدك تعمل لي امباير؟ برضه امباير but it's alienating كمان.
كذا alienating ممكن.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah. I mean, I can do whatever I want now. Yeah. I am trying to reach more of but it's funny because now I'm talking to like entities in the Middle East who really want me to, انه بدهم ياني اعمل كونتنت للعرب اكتر وعشان هيك كثير عم بعمل انترفيوز اكتر مع عرب شوف عرب بس برضه في ناس I'm not gonna mention names of brands but that are looking for like Arabs doing an English show so you know what do I do you have to figure it out
I think it isn't in any way counterproductive. I feel it will add substance. One that is different, of course, because it's spoken and it's being delivered in a different language.
Mhm.
And but then again, I feel like I don't feel I know that there's a big audience, a big Arabic audience, audience from and there are different demographics, of course, but because you're thinking what Arabs in the diaspora, people who are
no so
who have migrated to the parts of the world that are that are English speaking parts of the world. But then again, it's they still want to hear their language, right? I mean, they still want to hear content that is being produced in Arabic.
they want to follow as so far as I know from what I've experienced people who look like them and have similar values to them probably also they want to hold on to their roots by following people in those regions and in that way staying culturally connected to their roots but they oftentimes lack the language or they sometimes don't even speak the language or aren't as competent in the language as these people are. That's where it gets tricky and dicey, I think.
I think
Because you
that's
don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, you can get a big following of Arabs living in the Netherlands, for example, from the promos I do, and then, but they then want you to speak at least mostly English, because otherwise maybe they won't follow everything you're saying. Especially also because of the level of dialects that we were talking about in the beginning. A lot of people might only know that one dialect because that's what their parents taught them, and they didn't necessarily learn Arabic any other way, so they don't understand Arabic from Jordan if they're speaking Moroccan or
let
Tunisian.
me yeah, man. I mean, in terms of that, can I add something? And it's one thing that I just want to really have a certain sense of feedback to it because I feel like so growing up, we would watch it was like you remember Star Academy or
Yee,
you remember Star Academy?
yee, is enemy.
Very cringeable.
Yeah. So Star Academy, for those who don't know, well, maybe you want to describe it to people. Because to me, the way I remember it, it was like American Idol meets Big Brother, where it's like,
Yes.
oh, it's all these artists that are shit, honestly, living in a house.
Precisely. I wouldn't go so far to call it that. Listen, what it is that I
I don't
think
know.
what
I
was
was a
good
child.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was entertaining nonetheless, but it was just mm, uh, um this very like they had covered a deep dive into. It was almost like a reality show where we're supposed to feel for for those participants and really get connected with them. In terms of what they do during the day and how they sleep and what they eat and who they communicate with and how they interact with each other. So that was the entertaining part. I actually don't remember much of the music that was being produced. Regardless, though, I remember one thing. And it was like that, Star Academy or Superstar or Arab Idol. I remember whenever someone from North Africa, like Tunisia, for example, or Morocco, especially Morocco, that they would have them speak and present whatever they want to say in Arabic, and then they would have subtitles underneath. And I always thought, I mean, sure, it helped me understand the better because I never really, to this day, I don't really understand Moroccan very well. It's super hard for me to say.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I might as well understand whatever French word they're saying within the Arabic sentence. But then they used to have that caption. They used to really you'd read the subtitles and understand what they would say, and the subtitles would be in Arabic. And one notion that I would see, right around 2020 and nowadays is that that as an aesthetic has become more and more prominent in our works, where you have a Lebanese song or an Egyptian song, and being sung, and within the music video they'd have captions for each lyric. And I think it's like music video meets lyric video kind of thing,
Oh yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But it's all new. I mean, this wasn't really valid up until very recently. It wasn't very used,
Mm.
um, unless it was something that. But then again, I think the idea of this is because we're meant to any artist, especially from the Arabic, in the MENA region and the Arab world, we'd really like to have the sentences clearly stated, and being able to be interpreted in the Arabic form.
Also, I think do you think in Arabic music, and I haven't thought about this yet, but we put a lot more importance on lyrics than let's say English music.
I would say we are still a bit more conservative when it comes to writing for music, writing lyrics. Um, More and more, I would see some liberty being being shown in the hip hop movement and the rap scene. I think now they're more liberal with some with distinct usages of words and profanity and
Yeah,
whatever it is, like street talk or street slang.
yeah.
And it would reflect that kind of community, and it would reflect that kind of
Well, but
slang,
it's
right?
yeah. I think hip hop was always about well, all music is about self expression, but hip hop was about a different group of people expressing themselves more rebelliously towards their background. No, they're representing their background, but they're more rebellious towards where they are now. Maybe,
Towards an oppressor. I mean,
yeah,
it can
towards some
be
sort of it. Could be anything.
it can be interpreted in many
Yeah,
ways.
it could even just be a
Um,
guy. Like
it could
just a
be a
random
social
dude.
system. It could be an institution. It could be anything, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's
and
what.
what
No, it's not what punk rock used to be, but it's like, in a way, the size of the punk rock movement and the cultural relevance of it, also in terms of fashion and everything, has now translated into becoming hip hop. Now that's hip hop, you know, and the roots are the
yes,
same. It comes from a place of rebellion. Yeah,
to answer your question, I would say that yes, it's there has been some sort of uh, um,
At length.
progression, if I mean
Hmm.
progression or some sort of change where yeah, lyrics have become more and more colloquial. Um, but then again, it would still be. I would still say it's still around the conservative. Yeah, it's still a bit more conservative than anything else. Like, if we were to take a transliteration, or like if we were to translate,
I
I don't
mean, people
know.
in Arabic are um they're more scared when they're you know singing or making their lyrics Arabic, writing them down in Arabic to fully express themselves. I think
Why would you say so?
because there's a lot of cultural restrictions that come with it, and there's a lot of people are uber critical because of the differences in morals when it comes to. Here's how I see it in the in Western music, like our music in the Middle East is also progressing, and a lot of the sounds there and trends that are being created are based on those in the West and stuff. When you're talking about advancement and modernization of music and art, but in terms of lyrics and self-expression and that part of it, society will still completely criticize and sort of impose their own morals on that. So you're trying to advance one thing but not the other, whereas they're both supposed to be in sync, right? I don't know.
Surely,
It's like,
if
yeah, you're
someone
just changing the tune behind it, but for me, the best projects are always like very well directed in a way that when you're listening to, and this is not for all music, there's all kinds of music, but especially the deeper ones, the deeper projects where it's supposed to be deeper, a whole musical production, and you know this, is supposed to be formulated around the lyrics as well. There's a lot of those kinds of songs that I always enjoy when like this whole song or a whole album was made as as a movie or as a series. But that doesn't really, it really limits you when you can't say certain things in your lyrics, but your music around it is incorporating that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to say like,
I see, and then I also see that whenever whenever a piece of music, whenever a song is being published, that it will have different responses, right? It will have different feedback from different people because we have such a diversity in terms of accepting lyrical excellence, and whether or not we are comparing the lyric in the music to that of Arabic poetry.
mm-hmm.
As you may know, we take pride in our Arabic language and in the excellence and the beauty of how poetic it may be, and how your use of diction may be very effortless. Sometimes, combining two different meanings within one. You have this very playful, poetic extension of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas nowadays, where I feel like people as audiences and as creators have become more liberal in a sense where they would just say whatever they want to say, um, much like a conversation they would have with a friend, right? Or
No, so that's not necessarily what I mean. I mean, that's a different genre of music where, yeah, I mean, you mean you're losing the art of the language in a lot of the new music that's coming out now in the Middle East. I agree, but that, yeah, because you're linking that to the fact that we have become more liberal in the sense of accepting that language within the confines of the arts, right?
so there are nuances all over,
Yeah.
and
I
people like
mean,
that.
what if you poetically want to express yourself about certain topics? Like, I'm not even talking about political topics or something, but more about topics between personal relationships, about culture, about there's certain words you're not allowed to say, and it maybe sounds odd in a poetic, classical Arabic Fusha setting, in a poetic Arabic purist setting. That's why do they sound weird? There are actual classical Arabic words that are in the dictionary, for example, but you're not allowed to say them because they have a certain cultural impact. You know,
A
it's
connotation is
limiting, right? There's like there's a lot more limits because of it's censorship, is what it is. But There's a lot more censorship that doesn't allow you to fully exploit the beauty that is the Arabic language.
With music and with the underground scene that is ever so growing, I think the question of being restricted is no longer the case. We have a vast liberty over, again, the internet would give you this liberty to go about, say whatever you want, right? And then any altercations and any problems that would appear and arise from a certain thing that you would say, that would be a very subjective thing. But then again, it's super complex because you would mention a cultural the cultural aspect to it towards or to the cultural consensus towards the some sort of the terminologies that might be used. And I'm thinking people in the from the Andalus, right, where you had people. You had basically هو بالعربي اسمه فن الهجاء, where you would you'd be hired as a poet to diss somebody, right? To disrespect someone.
Oh,
And,
the old school battle rapper.
Exactly. It was the battle rap of the Arab.
But it's like, how fucking, if you have to pay someone to do a diss track for you, it's like you already lost. That's funny, right?
Because it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Because not only you go with, you spit your verse and then you quit and then drop the mic. You don't drop the mic just to it's I'm thinking those used to take months because they'd correspond back and forth with
by letter. But how would they diss? Yeah, exactly. They would just they would send a letter.
I think look into someone, a poet from the Andalus, اسمه Ibn Nawas. أو أبو نواس.
أندلس عندهم عرب كتير يا زلمة. The influence of the Arabs in Andalusia is very prevalent.
Come on.
أبو نواس.
أبو نواس.
أبو نواس أندلسيا.
أبو نواس شاعر الأندلس. نعم. مين كمان في هذولاك الشعراء مش هجاء.
Stealing everything. They're stealing everything. The 1,000-year-old lost Arab poetry that lives on in Hebrew. They steal everything.
Is that what's being written now?
That says in BBC. It's about Abu Nawas. There's no reason to make this political. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if that's 100% correct. Not sure.
I don't know. Some white guy probably wrote it. Ayo. Benjamin Ram. What is he? Let's call him out. How about let me see. Let's diss this guy. Journalist at BBC. Born in 1982. What does he know?
What does he know?
Born in 1980. He's yeah, I won't put him on the screen.
Put up the BBC card. Do
you think it'll be good for the following to start a beef with the BBC journalist?
We were mentioning that we want to start a beef with someone. Might as well be this guy.
Yeah, right. I was thinking more in wait, which scene were we looking at? Starting beefing. Who do we... Yeah, put in the comments who you want us to beef with. Put in the comments who you want us to beef with. We'll start that. We'll do it very articulately. We shall use the arts and the power of the diss in the yeah, what?
Dropping a fire beat soon. Stay tuned to the very diss of Benjamin.
Yeah. Flames. Flames. All these flames. Hashtag hype. Yeah.
If you knew, you knew.
You know, I start feeling old that when you see these trends coming up of TikTok music, not TikTok itself, but music specifically made for TikTok, and you know that some of these artists are just making it for TikTok to get a good streaming and stuff. But I mean, bro, think about your future, friend. Isma, listen. Where's the longevity? You're riding this little wave, and it's very easy to be led astray by the hype that is like a platform like TikTok or whatever, and like following that trend, but then your whole brand becomes that little trend, and you think you're being um, manipulated by the numbers that you're seeing and the millions you're seeing, right? As like a
Mhm.
following, not as money, because there's not really millions in cash. And then suddenly that gets taken away from you when that hype is over, and now you're just seen as that guy. Like, look at Vine, or how many of those people have ended up making it on YouTube because all of them went there. Whoever made it is huge now, but for the rest, they all died. Not really, but like their careers died.
I have to disagree with you on some parts of that. The thing is, TikTok is generally now conceived as the proprietor, almost the leading Vine, right? The new Vine, and it feels like okay. So the trick towards that, for you not to really die within the scene, is to just really keep on producing more and more content, short clips and music for that. And you never know which of these would actually pick up. It's not like you have this one particular idea in mind and you're like, oh, okay, this will absolutely be perfect for TikTok. It might be, but in reality, people might not be able to use it. I mean, people might not use it at all.
No,
Like,
I'm talking like specifically about like, sorry, yeah. Well, I'm talking about music artists who, they create their music specifically for TikTok, and it's happening more and more now, where you're writing a hype of a type of music, maybe a genre. It's just made to be going viral on there for a certain period of time, and it's fine to gather a following like that. But I mean, if you really want to take your career seriously, and you want to grow as an artist and really become you take it seriously, become legitimate, I don't think you can really formulate your music just cater it for TikTok. That's
that's the whole thing with TikTok. It's not meant for. I mean, you can be serious on TikTok again, yes, but I don't think that the vast majority of people are there to go
no,
into
but
a
I'm not
very
talking about
serious.
the vast majority. I'm just talking about those artists that are, catering their music to TikTok.
I think in a sense, I'm trying to say that I want to be one of those artists, Nicola.
No, 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 no.
I mean, if it's
No,
profitable,
look, it's fine to like. Obviously, it's really good to exploit the algorithm and to use that platform. Grow on there. That's fine, but it's not like you're gonna be catering your whole album on to
yeah, that's
to be
true. That's
TikTok.
true.
Like, oh, my
Mm-hmm.
whole album is gonna be these 30 minutes.
Series of
It's not.
TikTok
It's like
videos.
2 minute songs, 3 minute songs that like that's fine. But then it's like 3 minutes, 2 minute songs that are so repetitive that it's only about that little 10-second segment that it's TikTok
Uh,
viral. You know what I mean? Like there's people who just do
yeah,
that
man.
and
It's a
just following a
whole,
certain hype and in
the
terms of
entire world on TikTok. That's the thing, you've got the entirety of the world, and with every single person being able to post, and the algorithm is crazy. Yeah, I'm only still trying to figure out what the algorithm is all about.
listen, I'm gonna
And
go on there and I'm gonna put these clips on there, and then you're gonna help me promote it. That's how it's gonna. So I'm definitely gonna make use of it. I don't understand how it works, but everyone is telling me the algorithm is crazy, and it will, you know, definitely help with the reach.
oh yeah, definitely big time.
But I'm saying, aside from outside of TikTok, you have to be versatile in terms of you can adapt your brand or your work like within any model or any app or any next trend. Because that's what happened with Viners. However, it's like you either became huge on YouTube because you're just talented genuinely, or you just died because you were too platform dependent.
Well, there are also some artists or people who would create a hype, and eventually that thing would. So my example would be 2 days ago, I would see a post about this random post about the creator of Neon Cat. Do you remember the Neon Cat?
Yeah.
So and they would tag, mention their Instagram handle. So I click on the guy, and the guy surprisingly has what, like 200 followers, 300 followers. So basically, is this guy's unknown, but he has created
Yeah.
something that the entire millennials would relate to and know about. So it's I mean, I think when we are to discuss such things, I think whether or not a trend dies, it eventually will die, of course, but there's a lifespan that is different. There are different lifespans for different memes and different videos and different
Yeah.
ideas for this culture. I love it, man. I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
think you just
It's
need to be self-aware of where you're going as a not you, but like, are you with me? Oh yeah, because the video
I
got
think
stuck.
so. I think the internet. I mean, maybe this is my those are my closing remarks on such a subject. I think the internet had really been evolving and trying to understand. I mean, we were all trying to understand how to communicate with each other on the internet, and all the platforms really have changed numerous times. They would change their terms of agreement, terms and conditions, um, and for us to agree on some sort of language or some sort of behavior and a manner towards how and what to post and what to reply and what to say.
Yeah.
All in all, creating this idea of how we are allowed to use this technology. And I think I'm very proud to belong to my generation because I think I know that I have, started from the very beginning with all these platforms, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I've been a proud user of Facebook since 2007.
Yeah.
All thanks to, can I give a shout out to a friend of ours called Bana Abashuder? Um,
Yalla.
she's the reason. She's the reason I was on Facebook in the very.
You know that who's the reason I'm on Facebook? You. You were the reason that I was on
Oh no
Facebook.
way!
So I guess it's Bana, you, and then it's me. We
Bana,
created it
you
together. I remember exactly where it was. It was like in a IT class with Miss Jumana.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I at that
And we were
time I
playing
thought
mini clip, you know. ذكر.
I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. اسمع هلا Flash is no longer, you can't use Flash anymore.
Oh,
They
Flash to
added the
those
Flash.
to play those mini clip games.
Yeah, apparently it's gone now. It's obsolete.
It doesn't make sense, man. Why would they make something obsolete that's necessary to make something work? Like, you know.
I
So
mean,
those
it still hurts for me to see Internet Explorer.
yeah, that's just like give up, you know. Just give up.
I don't
Get
know
the
if some
fuck.
people
And
use
they try to
it.
like push it down your throat. They're like, you're gonna get it. Take it. Take that Internet Explorer. Here is the computer. It has Internet Explorer. What's the first
Goes
thing? The
down
only
and
thing I've
down.
ever done on Internet Explorer in the last like 10 years is use it to download Chrome or anything else.
To download what?
Oh, and then to download Chrome or anything else. And then and now they try to rebrand into Microsoft Edge. I see what you're doing. I know. I still know what you are. It's like if my ex wears a different dress, she's still the same person. You know, like that's what it is.
It's camouflage, baby.
Yeah. Start slip back into my life with that garbage. Come on.
Coming straight at you.
Yeah.
You be
Just because you
careful.
wear a hat and a new wig and you got that nose. No.
It's
No.
like this riddle with the patched sock. How many times it's like so if you have a torn sock and you patch it, and then it keeps being worn out, and you keep on patching it. How many times does it take these repatching, right? Until this very sock becomes an entirely different sock.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it makes yeah, it's like no, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. So at some point, you say at some point Internet Explorer in the like third, fourth, fifth rebrand, it's gonna suddenly be used again.
Yeah, I won't become Internet Explorer no more, except for the fact that it actually is. So there's the conundrum.
They just need to release a console maybe that like competes with Xbox and PlayStation.
Really? Would you be into that? I mean, I haven't. I don't own any. I wish I had some. Sometimes I really think of just buying one out of.
You mean a console? If I would buy a Internet
I was
Explorer
waiting
console,
until
no,
huh?
not with the
No.
current brand. They really definitely have to buy. Like they have to really research into like look into something very specific, then very unique that they can add to the landscape, and just market the shit out of that thing, and like show the other ones why Xbox and PlayStation completely sucks as an unplayable because they don't have that little thing. you know, just
I was
lie.
wondering.
This is do what Donald Trump did to get elected. That's what you gotta do if you're Internet Explorer. That's what you gotta do.
Oh
Donald Trump
man.
should run Internet Explorer, which is Microsoft. Yeah. No, don't run Microsoft. Just Internet Explorer.
It turned out into the new Twitter. I,
yeah. Trumpster.
I can I say? I mean, I kind of miss the Trump tweets.
Yeah.
Now, because looking back at things, because you can't see any of his posts no more because he's all disabled.
Here's
Uh,
the thing. Here's what I would do
well,
with Trump if I was his manager, right? And here I am, and I'm gonna prove to you why I'm such a good manager, right?
you
Donald Trump has garnered like there's never been such a fanatic following for any president before. Like Trump's followers are another level.
right,
His movement also represented several people, like as crazy as it sounds, things that people care very deeply about, right? I think the Trump thing, the Trump administration, the Trump ideology can become its own thing. I would have Trump start his own social platform where he can continue tweeting or like posting things out, and all his following is going to join that platform, and it's become sort of gonna be the extreme right wing sort of socially accept everything is there socially acceptable little platform. No canceling, nothing. I know I just created a monster, but that's what I would do, man. If he hires me, I just gave him the idea for free. Now, huh? I'm not gonna work for you, friend, but take my idea.
that's crazy, man.
I think that
That's
would be
crazy.
great because then they have their own. It's like their little forum, but it's like a very user friendly, and not human friendly social platform. That's what I would do if I was Donald Trump. And then all the Fox News people. Well, actually, Fox News was pretty critical on it, but people like Tommy Lahren and all these right wing pundits will like join it, and they'll be the celebrities on there. You get a blue check mark if you have more than 5 guns in home. That's what you get.
Damn, that's pretty radical. Okay, moving on.
You want to move on something?
Oh yeah, actually, I'm getting a bit hungry,
What do
so
we
I'm
order?
thinking. I'm wondering what you're having for dinner tonight.
I'm gonna probably order a pizza
Have you
because I
been
ate healthy.
cooking?
Yeah,
Have you been cooking
yeah,
yourself?
yeah, yeah. Yesterday was pretty straightforward, but the day before I made some nice like noodles with like teriyaki beef, homemade. First time I make it, and it was good because considering I thought we had soy sauce at home, and we
Right.
didn't. I ended up improvising something, and it was really good. Yeah. Sorry to the vegans out there though, but nothing like a good beef strip.
Oof.
But also,
'Cause you
we've
know
been
what?
very having a lot of vegetarian days too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, pizza.
I'm gonna get pizza.
Pizza. Some
Pizza.
nice veggie pizza for to share. Yeah, sounds
You want
good.
to share? Okay, let's get VG pizza.
The virtual pizza. Get the virtual virtual
The
one. The
virtual
cyber
pizza.
pizza.
yeah, great. yeah. One day you're gonna get pizza injected into your body.
And
We'll
then
see.
only be allowed to travel. Only be allowed to travel if you have that on you.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I think this was a good little random episode that we can definitely put to good use, and there's a lot
Hey
of
man,
clips for TikTok that are, you know,
I'm all in for these pop-up events, you
I'm
know it.
down, man. Yeah, because the thing I want to end with, I guess, is that like segueing into that with COVID and having been in Amman for this long, like for 3 months, I was there. has realized like starting to miss work and this whole workflow, even though I was taking so many meetings there and projects and this. The difference I see always between Amman and Amsterdam, and not just Amsterdam, I see this in a lot of Western European places compared to Jordan. Jordanians really want to do shit. Actually, like it's funny to say that people always think the grass is greener on the other side, and like Europe is so advanced, you know. And yeah,
There's
Amman is
definitely
advanced, but people wanna innovate. Maybe you would say people
create. We
wanna.
want to make something happen. Yeah.
If I
I
talk to
mean,
someone one day, and you know, maybe you, for example, and then you introduce me to someone, or I introduce someone to someone, the next day they're talking, and then we talked about something we can collaborate on, and then 2 days later we're meeting about it, and then 2 days after that we're doing it. You know, it's easy because it's not as bureaucratic, and there's less risks involved. Maybe I don't know, but people are just like hungry to do things, and it made
I
me
know.
really feel like I really wanted to stay active. So now I'm doing a lot of things, both paid and unpaid. This one is the key for me to stay motivated and help me mentally and everything as well is to stay active and to push this podcast, for example, and um, I'm doing the cutting board, the series about restaurants where it's also paid and unpaid stuff.
I
Working
can
on
definitely see it, man. I can definitely see how the drive that you would talk about that is from your homeland is rubbing off very nicely on and yeah, man. I can't wait for you to start putting out all this content. It's a beautiful journey, and yeah,
definitely
I
appreciate it.
can't wait to join in and explore more, and
You're on board all
just
the time, always.
all right, all right,
And
yeah,
that's how
man.
it started, right? I mean, that's how we started working together in the end. It was like
Mm-hmm.
we want to join forces to, reach also outside of the Middle East, you know, but taking that mentality into it.
Right, that's the plan.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that was Nairuz, and hope you have a great evening, and we'll be in touch. Hopefully, we'll do this again. Um, and you're gonna see a couple other guests on this segment of the show as well, instead of just having these interviews. Cool. Thanks.
Great, Aziz. You have a good one. And thanks for everyone who has just tuned in and joined this beautiful conversation. Shukran Jamian. We'll see you very soon.
Peace out.